Tonight on News 5 Live, the Ministry of Health says it's a team effort, even without a DHS. The Commission of Inquiry continues, and you had better make plans to spend Easter in Belize because you won't be able to go to Mexico. These stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services with Smart. Tired of being measured or cut off when you need to be connected? It's a fact that when you sign up for Smart's Plus plan, you get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data. And it's a fact that you can sign up with your group of up to 5 members for Smart's Share plans and up to 40 members for Smart's Enterprise plans for unlimited talk, text, and data. Smart has the true unlimited plans. That's a fact. Be smart and live smart.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Wednesday night, 3 lucky Mega Bingo players won the jackpot and walked away with over $675,000. Now the jackpot goes back to $100,000 and you have a chance to win it. Don't miss out. Purchase your tickets and tune in this Saturday, February 27th to the live show airing on Channel 5, Wave Radio and Radio Bahia at 8 p.m. You can also watch the game on your mobile device via Facebook and YouTube. All you have to do is search for Belize Mega Bingo and you can tune in live. All that mega cash is waiting for you. You can be a winner too because Mega Bingo is the game.
Belizeans will once again go to the polls on March 3rd for municipal elections 2021. Channel 5 will bring you all-day live coverage from all 9 municipalities. Our nationwide correspondents and in-studio analysts will provide you with up-to-date reports and commentary from 6 a.m. until the last vote is counted and results declared. Municipal Elections 2021, Wednesday, March 3rd, live on Channel 5 and on our Facebook and YouTube pages.
This newscast is brought to you by the Belize Bank Limited. Our country, your bank.
Good evening and welcome to News 5 Live for Friday, February 26th. I am Sabrina Daly. The controversy over the embattled Director of Health Services, Dr. Marvin Manzanero, has been playing out in the media for the past 2 weeks, with little to no word from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Today, Minister Michelle Shabat confirmed to News 5's Dwayne Moody that in fact, as the country is in the midst of fighting a pandemic, it has lost both its DHS and the acting DHS, Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa.
Here at the ministry, we have a team of individuals working. We have a team of doctors working. And so while the position itself may not have somebody occupying that seat at the moment, the work of the office of the DHS continues because our deputy director is carrying on some of those duties as well as other doctors here at the Ministry of Health. And so I think the message is to reassure the public that we have a team of doctors working to make sure that the work is being done properly. No?
As you know, Dr. Marvin Manzanero has been placed on administrative leave as an investigation on allegations of misconduct continues. But what's been happening with the DHS has been seen by the public as an attack on his reputation and as a move to frustrate him out of his substantive position. The Association of Public Service Senior Managers also said that proper procedure was not being followed and there was a breach of the public service regulations. Minister Michelle Shabat maintains that Dr. Manzanero was notified that he would not remain as DHS, and there is no breach.
Even before Dr. Manzanero went on leave and sickness leave in December, he and I had spoken. And he knew back then that he would not be remaining as the DHS. And so there is a major misconception in the public that he is being forced out, and this was sprung on him upon his return in a week ago or so. I think what these people out there who are talking, and I think there are two persons in particular who have been at the forefront of all of this talk, are misinformed, first of all, and I think that the information that they are giving to the public is inaccurate to a large extent. Dr. Manzanero was given several options of positions that he could assume, and none of the positions would entail a demotion. He would retain his salary, he would retain his benefits, he would retain all of his allowances. But I think it is critical to understand that within the ministry, we need to be able to place our people where we think at the time and place they can best serve the needs of the ministry and of the health sector. And so that we have identified different places where we believe that Dr. Manzanero could be effective, and those offers were made to him. I am confident that all along we have been following the advice of the public service and of the Attorney General's ministry. This is not something that we popped up overnight and said, boy, let's go do this. But this is something we sought advice on, and we have followed the prescriptions.
There is good news for Belize because today the allocation letter from COVAX facility for the first shipments of vaccines for the country. It has been confirmed that sometime in late March or early April, Belize will receive 100,800 doses of COVID-19 vaccines, and that's very likely the AstraZeneca one. That translates to 50,400 persons getting vaccinated for COVID-19 because it is 2 doses per person. That is nowhere near achieving herd immunity, which is 70% of the population, which amounts to approximately 280,000 people. Minister of Health and Wellness, Michelle Shabat, gave an update.
I am pleased to say that early this morning, Belize did receive its allocation letter. And so that helps us to get one step closer to the reception of the vaccines. And so I think we're now seeing the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. We now have some clearer indications as to the amount we're going to be getting. And I can tell you we're going to be getting 100,800 vaccines through the COVAX facility. And this is going to be the first shipment that we're going to be receiving. We are going to be receiving a subsequent shipment either in the 3rd or 4th quarter of this year. We are not limited to just the COVAX facility. We have been knocking on every single possible door that we can to either ask for or to purchase vaccines, and that is an ongoing process. And we are sure that our efforts will be bearing fruit quite shortly.
CARICOM heads of state are expressing frustration at the obstacles Caribbean nations are facing trying to access vaccines. At the end of a 2-day virtual conference, Chairman Dr. Keith Rowley, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, did not mince words as CARICOM once more calls on the World Health Organization to intervene.
we're issuing a statement on our concern and dissatisfaction with the way we have been literally squeezed out of access to vaccines. We know that there's a world shortage of vaccines, but what had been put in place to allow countries like us to have access to the vaccines have not been working along those lines. And the end result is that at this time, we have only had, fortunately, one gift of 170,000 vaccines within our region. And up to now, we have not been able to access any other, even though we now know and anticipate with great expectation that in the next few days we will hear when we will get our first COVAX. But we must understand that the COVAX initial tranches or quotas are but a small part of our needs. And in attempting to find access ways to either receive donations or to purchase from manufacturers, the only thing that has happened along those lines is that we've got some commitments to some territories from India to keep on, to add some more to the 170,000 doses. But so far, we have not been able to access vaccines in the way we anticipated. Suppliers, the large suppliers and the major countries have bought up all the supplies, and the suppliers are telling us that they are unable to access orders from us because of their commitment to those who have access to those vaccines. So you will see a strong statement from CARICOM on this, and you will see a repeat of the call to the WHO in the face of this development, which WHO is aware of.
The current quarantine regulations, including a curfew between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., to expire next week. But if you thought that the declining COVID-19 numbers would translate into a relaxation of measures, think again. Over the past week, health officials have been meeting with the Ministry of Home Affairs to determine the way forward. Today, Health and Wellness Minister Michelle Shabat confirmed with News 5 that this is no time to be softening quarantine regulations, especially with vaccines on the way.
We are not at this point going to be relaxing. We are so close to the vaccine, and we know that the vaccine will be a game changer for us, and we can't just yet at the Ministry of Health and Wellness open the floodgates. We need to continue taking precautions. We need to continue adhering to the curfew, which will continue. We need to continue adhering to the public health measures, the mask, the social distancing, the washing of hands. These are all prescriptions that have allowed us to get to where we are today in terms of the rate and the number of new infections, Dwayne. And so that it is our intention to continue along that path until we have our vaccines in country.
But what about land borders? Given the economic hardships brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, Guatemalan residents have been clamoring for the reopening of the western border. Even though Mexicans are allowed to travel to Corozal Free Zone, Belizeans have not been able to visit to neighboring Chetumal or Melchor, Guatemala, for business or leisure. Minister Shabat says that they have been looking at protocols to reopen border, but for now, it won't happen.
I don't think that it is proper and reasonable to continue holding the country locked down more than we need to. And so what we're doing here at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, we're looking at the different protocols that we could employ to allow for the opening of our borders. Clearly, we're not blind to the economic needs of our country and the need for trade. And so that is at the forefront of our mind. But as the Ministry of Health and Wellness, our priority is the health of the Belizean public. And so that is what we advocate for. We are in conversations with fellow ministers, and we are going to be recommending protocols that will allow at a future date for the opening of the land borders.
There will be much more news after the break, so stay tuned.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Bob Roberts with another 60-second sermon from God's Word. The Bible says the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power. Did you know that salvation is a free gift of God? But there are 5 crowns that God promises to give for faithful service to him. In today's scripture, we see 24 of God's elders bowing and casting their crowns before his throne. If the Lord should come today, what would you have in your hands to cast before his throne? As a teenager, we used to sing, Must I go in empty-handed? Must I meet my Savior so? Not one soul with which to greet him. Must I empty-handed go? Oh, friends, before God puts things in our hands, so often he has to remove others. Martha Nicholson said it best, One by one he took them from me, all the things I valued most. Until I was empty-handed, every glittering toy was lost. And I walked earth's highways grieving in my rags and poverty, till I heard his voice inviting, Lift your empty hands to me. So I held my hands toward heaven, and he filled them with a store of his own transcendent riches till they could contain no more. And at last I comprehended with my stupid mind and dull that God could not pour his riches into empty-handeds already full. What's in your hands that prevents them from being filled with God's riches?
Today's 60-second sermon has been presented by Christian Foundations of Faith in cooperation with the Baptist churches in your area.
On Wednesday, 3rd March 2021, voters of the 9 municipalities will have an opportunity to elect the members to constitute their councils. On your ballot, it is your decision and choice. Exercise it. Be assured that the COVID-19 protocols will be in place for your safe voting. Let your decision be your choice. Voters must properly wear their face mask or other face, nose, and mouth covering, maintain consistent 6 feet social distancing, and sanitize hands before entering the polling station. Having entered the polling station, the voter shows his voter identification card and announce his name in an audible voice. All voters will be required to temporarily remove their face mask or nose and mouth covering for the purpose of verifying the facial identity of the voter. The first poll clerk verifies the particular of the voter on the voter's list, while the second poll clerk verifies the particulars in the binder. The voter's name is then ruled off the voter's list. The voter is then required to show his right index finger to ensure that he has not yet voted. The voter's right index finger is then sanitized. Allow finger to dry for 5 seconds before dipping it up to the first joint in the indelible ink. The voter is then directed to the presiding officer, who then initials a ballot paper and issues it to the voter, along with a sanitized pencil. The voter then proceeds to the polling booth and marks a cross on the right-hand side of the ballot, opposite the name of the candidates of his choice. With the ballot paper folded to conceal the vote, the voter shows the presiding officer her initials, places the ballot paper inside the ballot box, and then places the pencil in the container for used pencil for resanitization. The voter then exits the polling station. Remember, you are permitted to vote in Belize City for 1 mayor and 10 councillors. In Belmopan City and Towns for 1 mayor and 6 councillors. Disabled, elderly, and pregnant women will be given priority. Electors are encouraged to take along their voter identification card to their polling station to facilitate the process. Your ballot paper will be considered void if it does not have the presiding officer's initials, if the voter has voted for more candidates than there are seats, if the ballot paper is not marked for any candidate, if the ballot paper contains any mark that can identify the voter, and if the ballot paper is unmarked or void for uncertainty. Let your decision be your choice. Always remember to follow all COVID-19 protocols to keep safe. A message brought to you by the Elections and Boundaries Department.
It's that time. Time to take Plan Belize countrywide. On November 11th, the people sent the PUP to Belmopan, and on March 3rd, we will elect blue teams in every city and town across the Jewel. No turning back. Join us as we kick off a massive virtual pre-election rally on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. on mainstream and social media. Meet our team from all 9 slates. Listen to messages from our mayoral candidates, music videos, entertainment by TR Shine and Consigo, inspiring words from our PUP leaders, and of course, the main man himself, Prime Minister Johnny Briceño. Together, we will rebuild Belize with a PUP central government and PUP city and town councils united and strong. Together for Belize, together with Plan Belize.
Together with Plan Belize, City Council Plan Belize.
Did you know that the other guy's truly unlimited data offer is not 100% LTE speeds at all times?
Hey, I think you're breaking up.
What? You're breaking up with me?
Whereas, Digi customers enjoy 100% true LTE speeds in all Digi plans.
Nah, babe. I keep it Digi 100.
Yo, Griga! Make sure you do the right thing, you know. Vote for Team Robert Mariano.
Don't know.
They want different thing, right? So make we vote PUP. In this year election, we have vote for the right man. A man for Griga. We have vote for a brand new mayor. We have vote Mariano. Vote Robert Mariano. Vote Mariano. Vote PUP. Came on. Aston for Dio. Came on. Harris Valentine. Came on. Sean Flores. Came on. Howard Flores. Came on. Martha Robinson. Came on. Liberato Teul. Came on. Dangligana. Came on. PUP. Mariano will work closely with our central government. Oh yes, he will.
Former Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Natural Resources, Hugo Pat, took his turn in the hot seat this morning when he appeared before the Commission of Inquiry in its second session. The Corozal North area representative was peppered with questions from the 3-member panel about a pickup truck that he had asked to purchase from the government of Belize at the end of the Barrow administration. The vehicle, as it turned out, was never sold to Pat. First, it was purchased by one of his friends for $65,000. Then, for reasons not yet clear, the 2020 Toyota Tacoma changed hands multiple times more. Today, those individuals were summoned to appear before the commission. Pat was the first in the line.
The approval letter was issued in the name of one Juvencio Herrera. Who is Juvencio Herrera?
Juvencio Herrera is a friend of mine, Mr. Chairman.
You made a request for the approval to be issued in the name of Mr. Herrera instead of your name?
At the time that I made the request, Mr. Chairman, I had a conversation with Mr. Juvencio, and I was having some financial difficulties, and so this conversation arose as a consequence of that conversation. And I indicated to Juvencio that I had made a request for this vehicle, but that due to health emergencies, I was not in a position to get the vehicle, to purchase the vehicle myself. And so that when I indicated this to Juvencio, he did agree to purchase the vehicle on my behalf.
So he purchased it for you?
Yes, he did.
Entwined in the saga involving the late model government vehicle is the purchase of multiple parcels of Crown land by businessman Kelvin Lee. It is believed those transactions were expedited for Lee through the Ministry of Natural Resources, where Hugo Pat was the political boss. Not surprisingly, monies for the purchase of the vehicle came from Lee, who instructed a third party to make the payment on his behalf. This morning, Pat was asked about his familiarity with the businessman, whose given name is Zurong Lee.
Mr. Zurong Lee, do you know who that is?
No, Mr. Chairman.
You familiar with that name, any?
No, sir.
Would it surprise you to learn that over the period 23rd July 2020 to 3rd November 2020, just before the elections, the week before the elections, you had approved the transfer of some 10 parcels of land to Mr. Zurong Lee?
I really can't tell, Mr. Chairman. As I indicated, lands is a department that produces in volumes, so that when you talk on a monthly basis or an annual basis, the volumes are pretty much high. So getting a name or identifying a person within so many applications, it's pretty much impractical from my end.
Over the period July 2020 through November 2020, you transferred 8 lots on San Pedro to Mr. Zurong Lee. Do you remember that?
I do not remember, Mr. Chairman. I don't, as I said, individually, it will be very difficult for me to actually identify who got approved a parcel of land and who did not.
Appearing with his legal representative, Zurong Lee was also quizzed about his knowledge of the former Minister of Lands and how he amassed over 20 properties across the country within the span of just a few months. Lee also detailed how he got involved in the purchase of the government vehicle sold to Jovencio Herrera. Of note is that Herrera requested and was granted a postponement of his appearance before the commission.
Do you know Mr. Hugo Pat?
No.
You've never met him?
No.
And Mr. Jovencio Herrera, do you know him?
Yes.
How do you know Mr. Herrera?
Mr. Herrera helped me renovated my warehouse before during the COVID, and that's how I know him.
You arranged the payment for the government to Belize of some monies for Mr. Herrera?
Yes, sir.
How did that come to be?
He approached me to extend assistance for him, which I agreed. And at the same time, I have some money that was going to pay back to me. So instead of go direct to me, then give it to Jovencio, I instructed Mr. Torres and Marine and Services to make the direct payment to the government.
So you instructed Mr. Torres to make a payment to government?
Yes.
And how much did you instruct him to pay to government?
He owed me 50, so I instructed him to pay the 50.
50,000 Belize dollars?
Yes, sir.
Attorney Andrew Bennett also appeared as Lee's counsel, objecting to his client being compelled to disclose the names of persons he did business with in the acquisition of the various properties.
Mr. Chairman, this is an inquiry into the sale of government assets.
Yes.
What is Mr. Lee's business arrangements is within the purview of his business arrangements.
His business arrangements are very much intertwined in the purchase of a government vehicle. which was approved to the Deputy Prime Minister of this country.
Well,
Mr. Lee will answer the question.
Well, I will beg to decline for my client to
it's
answer
not
that
open
question.
to you to decline. You decline, you refuse to answer on the pain of
Well, I will
criminal
advise
sanction.
my client to refuse to answer that question.
You will advise him to refuse to answer that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Do you do so on the basis that he might incriminate himself if he answers it?
I advise my client not to answer that question.
Are you invoking the privilege against self-incrimination?
There is no issue of incrimination, but he has the liberty
Well, that's the
to
only
decline.
basis on which you can decline to answer. You're obliged to answer. We're compelling you to answer.
The 2020 Toyota Tacoma that made its way through a labyrinth of handlers once the sale had been green-lighted by the government of Belize ended up in the possession of Car Guys Belize Limited, an auto dealership owned by Saeed Perdomo. According to the well-known businessman, when he perused the paperwork for the vehicle, he discovered that it was legally owned by Juvencio Herrera.
I just wanted to ask if you were aware of the fact that the vehicle was originally a government vehicle.
Of course I was aware. Okay. I mean, there were signs that, you know, when you see something, you think it, and then you go and find out. You do one thing afterwards, you know. I never aware at the time, but I know fool, and I know more or less, you know. But legally, it was for Juvencio. Yeah. And that's all I concerned about. Legal, I never know a whole circus that go in the background.
You ever had any discussion with employees from the vehicle care unit, like for example?
Never, ever. I didn't know that day.
Well, all right.
We buy from auctions, from embassies all the time, boards, you know. And I never buy from a vehicle care unit, 100% sure.
Coming up, the UDP responds to the Commission of Inquiry and so much more. Stay with us.
Sangriga needs love. With Team Humphreys, Sangriga deserves development. And the people need love. So make we stay. We hit the best. Sangriga first. So make we vote. Just make we vote. Make we stay. Cause the only way. People need help. We need betterment. In the culture capital of Belize, development in our environment is the mission of the UDP team, helping youth, supporting their programs, and scholarships for education. Oh, we need some true leaders, and the UDP team will work. So make we vote. Just make we vote. Make we stay.
I said, oh my God, you know what? I'm going to tell them my story.
At the moment, I may have been devastated, but looking back now, it's the best thing that ever happened.
I like to see the opportunity in every problem, and that's what keeps me going every day.
I wanted my work to have a different voice, to have a different narrative, to have to impact on the global conversation.
Belmopan, no better time than now. I am Ralston Fraser, Fraze for Mayor. I address you as your independent mayoral candidate with extensive experience. I have served you as councillor, as deputy mayor, as city administrator. As your mayor, I will stand with you. I will stand for you. I will not be pawn to any. On March 3rd, next week, Wednesday, you can choose the good candidate. You can choose the better candidate. Or you can choose simply the best candidate to work with you. The power of history is in your pen. At the very bottom of your ballot paper, choose Ralston Fraser. Fraze for mayor. Simply the best candidate. No better time than now to be the change you seek. Thank you.
Do you know what is the COVID-19 vaccine? The COVID-19 vaccine provides support to help your body develop immunity to the virus that causes COVID-19 without us having to get the illness. It is safe and very effective. How does the COVID-19 vaccine work? Different types of vaccines work in different ways to offer protection. But with all types of vaccine, the body is left with a supply of memory that will remember how to fight the virus in the future. It typically takes a few weeks for the body to produce the antibodies after the vaccination. Types of vaccines. Currently, there are different types of vaccines. Each type of vaccine prompts our bodies to recognize and protect us from the virus that causes COVID-19. None of these vaccines can give you COVID-19. Some of the vaccines are Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna. Both are RNA types, part of the virus genetic code. They both need 2 doses. Sputnik V and AstraZeneca, both are viral type, genetic modified virus. They both need 2 doses. Do I still need to practice safety measures after being vaccinated? Yes. You need to continue wearing your mask, washing hands, and practicing physical social distance. The vaccine reduces the severity of the COVID-19 infection. There is also evidence that the vaccine reduces transmission of the COVID-19 virus.
Why, Tony?
Boy, kid, where you going, man?
I actually come see you because I need to buy a stack of them plastic plates and cups for my grocery shop because I run low.
Boy, I stopped importing that thing since April 15th, you know. And I just routed the last batch, must be about like 3 weeks back, you know.
Man, do I usually have that thing? What is going on?
Check this, right? Under the new law, we ban all single-use plastics, so that the cups, plates, forks, spoons, and knives, all of that. Since April 15th, can't import none of them. Starting January 15, 2021, you can't manufacture them. April 15, 2021, you can't sell them. And after July 14, 2021, if you get catch with any other thing, you will get fined.
Me never know this. I guess I have to make some changes then. I have to make the customers know that anything not available. Anyways, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Take care.
Today, the opposition called a press conference to sound off on issues of national importance, including the Commission of Inquiry. Leader of the opposition, Patrick Faber, says the commission is on a witch hunt and has failed to show that there was a fire sale of government assets. He says that 3 serviceable vehicles brought into question before the commission do not constitute a fire sale. He also defended his deputy party leader, Hugo Pat, who was before the inquiry today.
If it is what they say, then yes, we would have to be alarmed, but we don't know that that is necessarily the case. And we will do our own internal investigation in the party to see if that was indeed the case. But as you know, that inquiry is now a full-out witch hunt. Remember, and this is what we should not lose sight of, the focus or the intent of the inquiry is to find out whether there were fire sales of government assets. With all that has gone on there, with all that has gone on, all of this, even what you bring up, we can't move beyond 3 government vehicles that were serviceable being sold. I think it is unfair to try to saddle all of that on the deputy at this point. But the commission continues its work, and I'm sure, well, I'm not sure that we can put any value or hold any value given the exposure that they are clearly political witch hunting.
The United Democratic Party came out swinging today in support of Dr. Marvin Manzanero. The party says their position is one of principle and not a political statement. According to Leader of the Opposition, Patrick Faber, Dr. Manzanero is a consummate professional who is being unfairly targeted and victimized. The UDP also slammed the government for what they say is a failure to observe the good governance motions they have championed, disregarding for the public service regulations where Dr. Manzanero's issue is concerned.
Our position as it relates to what is happening to Dr. Manza is in no way political. And I say that because I can tell you categorically, and I think all my colleagues who are seated up front with me will tell you likewise, that Dr. Manzanero is no flag-bearing member of the United Democratic Party. So we would want you to view our position as a position of where we feel righteousness should be, and not necessarily fighting a case for Dr. Manzanero.
What has occurred along the way is that there is an allegation of professional misconduct, which by the very nature is quite alarming, to say the least. And we say that for these reasons. At the time when Dr. Manzanero was he is still the Director of Health Services, he acted on the advice and in consultation with the task force. And at all times, he was an agent of the state. And therefore, if there is to be any allegation against him for professional misconduct at this juncture, would mean to say that really what the government is attempting to do is attaching liability to his actions. But what the government has failed to realize, and why we believe it is short-sighted, because if you try to attach liability to Dr. Manzanero's decisions and actions, then you are making yourself liable, because you are the government. The position of the United Democratic Party is simple. Before you take political decisions, be transparent, observe the law, observe the public service rules and regulations, and act in accordance. And always take into consideration that what you do may or may not attract liability.
The United Democratic Party is heading to court to get PUP's mayoral candidate Bernard Wagner disqualified from the 2021 municipal race. The UDP, through its chairman, Michael Parafit, launched a Supreme Court application, which will be heard before the court on Monday afternoon. The contention is that Wagner doesn't live in Belize City, and according to the UDP, there is a piece of legislation that was amended which can see Wagner disqualified. Here's more from Parafit.
There was a discussion about it at the time of the nomination of his candidacy. but I am told the chief elections officer got the advice of the current Attorney General's ministry that the candidates for Belize City only necessarily had to have ordinarily been residing in Belize country for the past year. The website has the current 2003 legislation on the internet, but when I did some research, I was hoping that during this time, the Elections and Boundaries Commission would realize that they were mistaken in that advice, because I was sure that there was an amendment. The amendment was gazetted the 31st of December 2008 that clearly made the change that said you had to be in Belize City. In terms of the filing and the timing of filing it, there is no time limit. First of all, we had to see if you would be nominated. So the question is, why did we wait now from nomination day to now? We have not been waiting. We have been preparing, and there is nothing to say that a judge is prevented from disqualifying a candidate up to 5 minutes before polls open. There's no time limit. But we believe that we have a very strong case. We believe that we are on all fours with the case, but that is a matter for the courts. On Monday, they will decide. And we believe that whatever decision the court comes with, we will have to accept, and we will proceed accordingly. But we would respectfully disagree, and don't want to preempt any court, but we believe that respectfully the case is clear. Bernard Wagner does not live in Belize City. He has not ordinarily resided anywhere but Los Lagos for the last year or two, couple of years. So clearly, within the confines of the Belize City Council Act, he is simply not qualified to run as a city councillor or a mayor of Belize City.
Belize's courts get fitted for COVID-19 protocols as jury trials resume in person. Details when we come back.
My name is Patrick Williams, and I am offering myself as a councillor candidate this coming municipal election. I have been working tirelessly around the city, tackling issues such as road maintenance, garbage disposal, and drainage work to allow flow of water. When elected, I can reassure work will continue throughout our city and improve the living conditions for all citizens. Belize City deserves better through transparency, integrity, and unity. On March 3rd, make the right choice by voting Patrick Williams from the Belize Progressive Party. This is a new generation of leadership, and change starts now.
Start your year with a win with Bellikin and its new promotion, Papa Stopper. Yes, sir. Every time you pop one stopper off our Bellikin, make sure you check under the crown. If you see one bottle shape, you win one free Bellikin. If you see one ball, you win $20. If you see one star, you win $100. And once you see one diamond, you win $1,000. Sure, Bellikin again, you know. Papa Stopper. When you pop a stopper off a Bellikin, check to see if you're a winner. You can collect your free beer or $20 cash prize at the store nearest to you. If you win $100 or $1,000, redeem your prize at the nearest B&B sales center.
Promotion is valid until Saturday, March 27th or while supplies last.
Papa Stopper!
Bellikin, the beer of Belize.
Hello? Okay, sure, I'll be there. Hello?
Hi, Mommy. When are you coming home? I really miss you.
Hearing the voice of our loved ones can always lift our spirits and make us feel whole again.
With Smart's twice as nice promotion, prepaid customers who make 5 minutes worth of national calls on Sundays can enjoy 50% off. Top double on all national calls for the rest of the day. Call your loved ones and enjoy half off all day long. Smart, bringing people together.
In the first 100 days of the new administration, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade and Immigration has made great strides in advancing Belize's foreign policy and citizenship and immigration services in support of our national interests. Led by Foreign Minister Eamon Courtney, the Foreign Ministry has conducted high-level meetings with the Foreign Ministers of CARICOM and SICA. Bilateral meetings have been held with the ambassadors from Cuba, the EU, Guatemala, India, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Taiwan, the UK, the US, as well as the OAS, the UN Resident Coordinator, and the UNICEF representative. New ambassadorial and diplomatic appointments were announced to Mexico, the US and the OAS, Taiwan, the UK, Belgium and the EU, Cuba, Guatemala, El Salvador, and the United Nations headquarters. The Ministry continues to stridently support the Ministry of Health and Wellness's efforts to acquire COVID-19 vaccines and other initiatives through engagements with bilateral partners. With the government's strong commitment to climate action and sustainable development, the Ministry facilitated Belize's accession to the International Solar Alliance, an initiative by India and France to drive solar energy innovations in Belize. In the aftermath of Hurricanes Eta and Iota, the Ministry convened the Foreign Assistance Committee to coordinate support from donors to assist families affected by the floods in the form of food and household supplies, and PPEs were sourced for aid workers. The Office of the Agent to the International Court of Justice, in collaboration with its international lawyers, is preparing Belize's counter-memorial, which will strongly assert Belize's claim to all its territory, islands, and seas in accordance with international law. In the area of foreign trade, the Ministry has been equally active. The Ministry worked to reach an out-of-court settlement with St. Kitts and Nevis to end a dispute over trade in brown sugar. To secure Belize's access to the
I said, oh my God, you know what? I'm going to tell them my story.
At the moment, I may have been devastated, but looking back now, it's the best thing that ever happened.
I like to see the opportunity in every problem, and that's what keeps me going every day.
I wanted my work to have a different voice, to have a different narrative, to have to impact on a global conversation.
Results are finally back from Baylor College in Houston, and the UK variant of COVID-19 has been detected in Belize. It was from a batch of 15 samples that were sent for gene sequencing. The swab belonged to a member of the British Army Training Support Unit Belize who was asymptomatic when he arrived in Belize on January 12th. Minister of Health and Wellness Michelle Shabat says that there are entry protocols established for all troops entering Belize. Aside from bringing a negative PCR test on arrival, they must undergo a mandatory swab here in Belize, after which they must remain in quarantine. The minister told News 5 that the individual was isolated immediately and remained in isolation for 14 days before he was retested.
Not until they were cleared from quarantine did they go on to the Pine Ridge to conduct their training. And so all of those protocols that we have implemented have helped to contain the spread of the UK variant found on that particular individual. And so we are satisfied that there were no infections caused by him. They are quarantined for the 14 days. And so that helped to allay whatever situation may have arisen there. No?
As a result of a further 40 swabs, it will be reported on in the near future. Justice Herbert Lord is expected to make a ruling on Monday in a voir dire that preceded the actual murder trial of Patrick Harris. Justice Lord decided this week to enter the voir dire, a hearing within the actual trial, to determine whether or not Crown Counsel Portia Ferguson will be allowed to enter as part of the prosecution's evidence, the identification of Harris in the actual trial. Harris's defense attorney, Oscar Salgado, objected to allowing the identification of his client as evidence in the actual trial because the identification was done without his consent. Under Belize's law, an accused has the right to object to any kind of identification, but the police have the right to still do an identification covertly. In this case, the identification was carried out in a group setting. At least 4 witnesses were called to give testimony on the process of the identification that the police used in this instance. Patrick Harris is accused of the murder of Dylan Greenidge, who was killed in Sandhill Village, Belize District, on December 31st, 2016. Jury trials are being phased back in Dangriga in the Southern Judicial District. Justice Antoinette Moore presided over the first case where members of the public were impaneled to sit through a trial and to judge a man's fate. For the past year, criminal trials have been conducted with only the Supreme Court judges presiding over them because of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the restrictions against crowd gatherings. Even before the numbers of COVID infections and related deaths began to drop, as they have over the past several weeks, planning and preparation had begun to hold jury trials. Courtrooms across the country are being retrofitted, similarly to the House of Representatives, to now accommodate jurors in enclosures and meet safely protocols that have been put in place. All courtrooms are outfitted with protective dividers, with plexiglass at the docks, counsel tables, and the jury seats. Physical spacing has also been factored into the measures. Because the courtrooms are limited in size, impaneling the jurors is done in a separate area. This is an exemption that the Supreme Court has secured from the Minister of Health and Wellness to ensure that the process follows safety guidelines for all. After the Southern District session ends, the next jurisdiction to hold jury trials will be Belmopan. The COVID pandemic was responsible for suspension of court matters at all levels of the judiciary and the magistracy for much of 2020, compounding the already strained justice system with a serious backlog. At the magistrates level in Belize City, the operations had to be closed down twice for 2-week durations when members of the police prosecutions branch were diagnosed with COVID-19 on one occasion, and a second time when again personnel from the registry were diagnosed with the virus. Farmers who have taken a double hit from the 2019 drought and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic are about to get some relief. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise has announced it is starting to release funds via a voucher system for phase 2 of its relief for registered farmers. Eligible farmers for this phase include those who experience adverse effects from tighter market, droughts, and post-harvest management problems from June of 2018 through to April 2020. The vouchers and list of eligible items and the compensation value for each farmer will be available from the end of February through to June 2021. The agricultural sub-project is a part of the contingent emergency response component, the Belize Climate Resilient Infrastructure Project. The $16 million Belize project is financed by the government of Belize and the World Bank. If you are a young Belizean passionate about climate change, The Italian embassy in Mexico City is looking for delegates to send to a youth climate summit in Milan this September. Successful applicants will join 400 of their peers aged 15 to 29 from United Nations member countries. You must be able to demonstrate activism in programs or initiatives centered on climate change or sustainable development and respond to a questionnaire. The selection committee includes the Office of the Envoy of the UN Secretary General on Youth, the Children and Youth Constituency of the United Nations Framework on Climate Change, and the Italian Ministry of the Environment. All expenses to Italy will be covered for the chosen delegates. If you are interested, you must hurry, however, because applications close on February 28th. After the break, the whole world wants Belizean butterflies. We'll show you how one family is trying to fill a global demand.
The UDP says because poor Michael Perfy is so specially sized, they had to buy special furniture for him. But not only did they buy special furniture for poor Mike, they practically gave it away to him for little or nothing just before elections.
Furniture consisting of a couch and some chairs that had to be acquired with certain dimensions and size specifications in mind, and in addition had to be reinforced because of Senator Perfy's size and weight.
Actually, it was a mahogany office desk, 2 couches, 7 solid mahogany chairs, 2 luxury chairs, a laptop and an iPad for only $3,500 to the man with a net worth of almost $2 million. Think about that. The UDP is a sick party. On March 3rd, let them know we will not forget. No more greed, no more hustling, no more corruption, no more UDP.
Abigail. Yes, Gran? Abigail, I can't breathe well. Granny, we need to go to the hospital to get you checked out. No! I'm fine. Yes, Gran, we need to go now to get you treated. Now, before it's too late. No. Grandma, we need to go for all of us. No.
Stop. If you are having flu-like symptoms, please call us immediately for medical guidance. If you have chronic conditions such as diabetes and you're experiencing symptoms such as shortness of breath or chest pain, please also seek medical attention immediately. We've lost a lot of people this year. We don't want to lose you too. Please seek help if necessary. Call us at 0800-664-2273. Continue to wear your mask at all times. Keep physical distance when in public and stay at home unless absolutely necessary. This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Es un hecho que puedes obtener servicios ilimitados con Smart. ¿Cansado de que se corte la línea cuando más necesitas estar conectado? Es un hecho que cuando te suscribes al plan de Smart Plus, obtienes llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Y también es un hecho que te puedes suscribir con un grupo de 5 miembros al plan Smart Share y hasta 40 miembros al plan Smart Enterprise para llamadas, textos y datos ilimitados. Smart tiene los verdaderos planes ilimitados. Es un hecho. Sé Smart y vive de forma Smart.
El 11 de marzo, la Organización Mundial de la Salud declaró la COVID-19 como una pandemia. Una pandemia significa que el virus está en todas partes, pero podría no estar en todas partes al mismo tiempo. Si no hay casos en su área, no significa que nunca habrán casos en su comunidad. Para prevenir la propagación de la COVID-19 en su comunidad, quédese en casa a menos que sea absolutamente necesario salir. Practique el distanciamiento físico al salir. Lávese las manos frecuentemente con agua y jabón durante al menos 40 segundos o use un gel a base de alcohol. Evite el contacto con cualquier persona que tenga fiebre, catarro y tos o síntomas de gripe. Obedezca las reglas de cuarentena, aislamiento y toque de queda. Limpie y desinfecte las superficies que se tocan con más frecuencia, como las manijas de las puertas, mostradores, pasamanos, teléfonos y tabletas. No se toque los ojos, la nariz o la boca sin antes lavarse las manos con agua y jabón. Protejamos nuestra salud.
There is a demand for Belize's butterflies on the other side of the pond. Just ask the operators of Belize Pupae Supply and Yaashkin Butterfly Farm. Although the pandemic threw a wrench in the visits to their site, the interest for pupa from Belize has grown over the past year. Despite the challenges that the virus has caused to this profitable export venture, the butterfly farmers are working hard to supply the demand. They have been exploring the business of selling dried butterflies used for art and for other collectibles abroad, as well as looking into doing live butterfly displays for special events locally. In the second part of the story, we will tell you about the pupa export business. Here's the story.
The Saki family opened their butterfly business 2 years ago in Maya Center village. It grew into something they never dreamed of. Belize Pupae Supply had just begun to get their shipments to the United Kingdom going when COVID-19 interrupted their operations.
We were exporting sometime from December to about February or March when the pandemic came. We had a lot of butterflies. We had more species, but then when that pandemic hit us, we had to just, scale down as much as we could, and it was very difficult.
But they knew they couldn't stop because they were getting demand for pupae from Belize. They're getting requests from different parts of Europe and now even in Asia.
So we used to ship on a weekly basis up until mid-March when everything shut down, and then we stopped to ship them as well. So
because of the pandemic.
Because of the pandemic, yep.
Right. But there has also been interest from other countries.
Yes, at the moment we have been getting interest from Canada, from New Zealand, and from Italy as well, and from I think Germany. So we have 4, countries that that want the pupa. So we're still working that out. And the Philippines, I forgot to mention the Philippines. So the demand is there for these pupa. Yep.
What do you think they like about the pupa coming from Belize?
I think they don't have the species there. Those big countries, I think they don't have any forest left. So, and then, they want to buy pupa here, and then they have big conservatories where they just wait for the adult butterfly to emerge out of their pupa.
The Sakis will tell you that pupa exportation is a lot of work. It involves precise calculations and a lot of careful packaging for this precious cargo. All this work happens in this breeding facility.
We move them into different containers, size by size. So this is when they are 10 days old. These are when they are in the 13 days. And this here is when they are 16 days. These are when they are in their final stage. We check them one by one to see if they are ready to turn into pupa. So we remove them and put them into trays. These caterpillars stay in the caterpillar stage for 16 days. And after that, we move them and put them in the trays so they can hang like this.
And when these pupae arrive at their destination after 2 or 3 days, they emerge as beautiful butterflies to curious and admiring eyes in faraway countries. For Belize Pupae Supply, the demand is so high that they need time to increase their inventory.
I think the numbers of pupa.
Okay.
So we roughly want to ship up to 3,000 pupa a week. So it's more than what we did before. So we need to. We have a lot of buyers, so we want to share it amongst them.
So the demand is there. It's just up to you guys to fulfill the demand.
You have to fulfill the demand, yep, so it's up to us now.
Did you guys ever imagine that when you had the idea way back in 2016 that it would grow into something where you're exporting?
Nope, we didn't know about that actually, so we just wanted to do it for visitors, for display, and then as we went along, we became aware of many opportunities, you know, so I mean, 4 years ago, we were just probably had only like 30, 40 butterflies inside here, and you know, here we are with over 3,000 butterflies.
Right. The Saki family uses this business to sustain their livelihoods, provide employment in their community, as well as to educate the public. They want Belizeans to take a risk like they did.
So that is what we use to keep, you know, to help our employees to pay them, you know, so I know some of them have families too. So this is why, you know, we don't want to stop. We want to continue and eventually to hire more people. It creates employment, you know, for rural areas as well. And this will be a part of rural development in the future. You know, go for it. The opportunities will come along the way. Just don't give up. Just go for it. So that's what I have to tell them, you know, just no matter what the challenges are, you know, you can overcome that and opportunities will definitely come.
And that's where they believe the government comes in as a driver of what is an emerging industry in Belize. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
You can visit Yaashkin Butterfly Farm in Maya Center Village. They are open daily for visitors from 7 in the morning to 5 in the evening. And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Sabrina Daly. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance,